So, hey everybody, Emily here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so thrilled and excited to welcome our guest, Erick Sandstad, a fellow brain-spotting clinician, psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, and EMDR specialist who's based out of Kentucky and Georgia. Erick is a former monk who studied philosophy in Spain and Italy before seeking graduate studies in psychology in Boston. Erick specializes in the treatment of pain, trauma, and dissociation. And today he is here to share with us his discovery of how brain spotting therapy can be used to relieve pain. Super exciting. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
So for those of you who are not familiar, brain spotting therapy is a powerful treatment method that works by identifying, processing, and releasing the core neurophysiological sources of trauma, negative emotions, addictions, chronic stress, as well as a variety of other challenging symptoms. Using the aid of a pointer, a therapist will help a client find a brain spot, which is a point in someone's visual field that allows direct access to the source of unprocessed or unresolved trauma deep within the subcortical regions of the brain. Brain spotting also incorporates bilateral sound, which enables deeper processing, right-left brain connectivity and communication, as well as relaxation. Brain spotting works by activating the brain and body's natural ability to heal itself, and in time, painful memories are replaced with feelings of peace and resolve. So Erick, welcome. It's so good to be with you. Tell us a little bit about how you discovered brain spotting's ability to relieve pain.
Yes. So first of all, I'm so excited about this recording because it just shows that out there people are interested in this topic. But the first thing that I want to start with is something very basic, which is something that I came to discover through brain spotting, and is the power of our, just like what you said, the power of our eyes, the power of our sight, the power of our gaze. And what I discover is that not many people know this or they don't realize it, but the part of our brain that is outside of our skull is actually our eyes.
Mm.
And the retina of our eyes has in itself is like a mini computer in its own, and that the neurons there are already scanning and are already sending information to the rest of the brain. But the most powerful thing for me is to know that the connection when it comes to pain is that it passes through the same system that the eyes and the vision passes through. And it's a very ancient pathway that the brain has kept for millions and millions of years in order for us to survive in this planet. And so to me, the discovery of brain spotting is that through the eyes, through sight, through gazing, we can actually influence our internal system. To give you one little example, do you know that how we connect, how we bond with our loved ones, especially if you have a child and you get your baby newly born and you look at your child, is through your eyes, through your gazing, you release oxytocin, and oxytocin makes us feel bonded. So think of it like that, and then all of a sudden you realize that if you want to bond with your pet, the only thing you got to do is stare at your pet, make eye contact with your pet, and you will get all this release of oxytocin. So if our gaze can do that, imagine what our gaze can do that for us, also to relieve us from emotional pain, but also physical pain. And so that's the greatest discovery. And I am very grateful to David Grant, who discovered brain spotting back in 2003, because that has led us to these new ways of working with pain. So you asked me about how I came about this discovery. I always tell people I think that this discover me, because I'm the type of person that I'm very curious. I'm always, when I connect with my clients, I always try to go beyond just being there and fulfilling the formalities. As a clinician, I have to do intakes and I have to do all sorts of different things and assessments. But beyond that, I want to just be able to connect with my client and feel what they're feeling and try to at least put myself in their shoes and see how they're doing. So I it just so happened that I was at this clinic in Somerset, Kentucky, and you know the way it works in those clinics, that we get bombarded with so many clients, and this was like towards the end of the day, and a new client came in that I have never met before. I had to go and get him at the hallway, and I'm going to call in here TH to for confidentiality issues. But this is a male in his 40s, about 6'7" feet tall, weighing over 300 pounds, former truck driver. And the first thing that I noticed is that his wife was with him, and as he was walking towards me, he was on a cane. He was holding on a cane, and he was very slowly walking, and you could tell that he was in a lot of pain. So I walked very slowly. He came into my office. He barely was able to sit down in the chair, and I could tell that there was something wrong with his kneecap, because he could barely um, just communicate with me. All of a sudden, I felt that he was in such a way that he was not going to be able to uh, utilize the time that we had for the intake. And so this is when my intuition came to me, and I have no idea how this come to me, but intuitively, what came to me at that moment was, pull your pointer and ask TH if he will be willing to try a quick exercise by using your eyes, and maybe get some relief from pain. But I'm not sure if this is going to work, because I'm like this. I'm a brain spotting, so I know I've used brain spotting before, but never for pain.
Mm-hmm.
So TH agreed, and of course he's in pain, so he's like, anything, right? And so I began, and I pull out my pointer, and what came to me at that moment was just ask him the following questions. And this was something very intuitive. So the first question that I asked was, does discomfort serves you in any way? And notice that I used the word discomfort for the first time, because I did not want to use the word pain, because I realized for some reason in the back of my head, the word pain, it also means retribution. It comes from the word pene in Latin, which means punishment, retribution. Uh, and so I figured out that that word is pregnant with a lot of negativity. So let's change it and see what happens. So I said, does this discomfort serves you in any way? And he said, no, I just don't like it. And then the next question that I asked was, can you tell me what does your body need right now? What does your needs right now from you? And at that moment, what he was able to say, I think he mumbled something, and I wasn't quite sure because I was very nervous at that moment. But the only thing that I remember was that I told him, what is the opposite of discomfort? And then he said, comfort. And then I rephrased the question again. What does your body then need? And then he said, comfort. And then my next question was, would you be willing to welcome comfort into your knee? And the moment that he said yes, I realized we're on. And I got to tell you something that I learned in my experience working with trauma and dissociation. And that is that in our brain, we have areas of our brain that I call it neural maps that remembers the way things were before, because our neurons, which are the cells that are in charge of running our brain, this is a neuron. I don't know if you can see it here. This is a large neuron, but these neurons, we have over 100 billion of these neurons inside of us, and they're so intelligent, so bright. And so these guys here are in charge of sending the signals of pain. So what I realized was, okay, I'm going to trigger those neurons to remember how he felt with comfort when he didn't have discomfort. So what came to me at that moment was, I just asked him one question. Would you be willing to remember the time when you did not experience discomfort and you were doing something fun with your knee? And the first thing that he said was playing with his pet in the park. I said, perfect. Let's find the spot that corresponds to you playing with your pet in the park, and tell me where do you notice that in your body. And so I moved my pointer, and of course I moved my pointer to one side and then back to the center and then to the other side, and he said right there. And so I went, and so as soon as he said right there, I knew we were in the comfort zone area, that we have triggered his neurons. And so I use what I call the Z-axis, and I started moving my pointer away from him. Well, what happened next is the most amazing thing, because I wasn't sure what is going on or what's going to happen. But what happened next was that all of a sudden, his eyes began to lit up. And then the first thing that came out of his mind or his mouth was, "Are you a fucking wizard?" And when he said that, I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, what happened here? And then he said, "I don't feel the pain. I don't feel pain." And what I didn't understand at that moment is that the experience at that moment of his kneecap, because he had such a huge knee that the University of Kentucky had replaced a kneecap on him that was not big enough. So it was much smaller, and every time he walked, it moved around his knee. And so that must have been excruciatingly painful. But all of a sudden, this man is saying, "I don't feel it. I don't sense it. It's not hurting anymore." And that to me was the greatest experience ever, thinking, oh my gosh, what did just happen here? He walked out of my office. We were able to complete the intake. He walked out of his office with his cane, and he put it underneath his arm, and he walked. And as he walked, he would be like waving at people, like people that were passing, all the clients from all the clinicians, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And then when we got to the front desk, he said, "This guy, I don't know what he did." And then he told his wife, "I need to come back and see this guy again." So that was the beginning.
Yeah, wow. I mean, what a wild and incredible thing to happen upon, to give someone that sense of relief. Absolutely amazing. And so with TH, he had pain stemming from some complications post operation, post surgery.
Yes.
And I'm curious, what kind of pain or discomfort or presenting like body somatic discomfort is this model most helpful for, useful for?
Yes. So I primarily have used it. Of course, I'm not a pain specialist in the terms of anytime someone comes to me, is usually they're coming because they have some sort of trauma, or they have something where and some anxiety. some dissociation. So they're not coming for pain. So what I normally ask people is make sure that you see your physician just to make sure to know what's happening. And the reason is so important for us to be able to do that is because we want to make sure that in the body is being healed properly. So we don't want to just get rid of pain because a lot of people forget what pain is. And I think we want to be able to understand, before I answer your questions, to understand what pain is. And if I may, take a few minutes here to be able to explain pain. But think of it like this. How important is pain? That is a mechanism that has survived for millions and millions and millions of years so that we can be here in this planet today. So if you think like that, what pain is really is an ancient alarm system, an ancient alarm system that is so primitive and that is in the primitive side of our brain that has helped us survive in this planet. And so what I tell people is we don't want to get rid of pain. We just want to be able to lower it, the volume of that alarm system, once you are doing something about the tissue that is either being damaged and that it needs some repair or is about to be injured. So it's an ancient protective system that is experienced as discomfort. That's the definition of pain for me. It's a protective system. So we don't want to get rid of it. This is why it's so important, because the protective system has been with us for millions of years. And these neurons that I just showed you are the ones that trigger it. And they're real. Pain is real. I have people that say, well, pain is in your head. Well, it's yes, it is in your head, but it's real because it is experienced real, and something chemical actually is happening in us. And so therefore, we want to be able to help individuals understand what pain it is so that we don't just get rid of it. And I'd say this is very important because I had a client, and these were a couple that they came to see me, and they came for couples counseling, and they both got into an argument. They were fighting. Now, she had some sort of an issue with her arm, and she had it on a sling cast, and she couldn't move it because she was in a lot of pain. But while they were arguing with each other, she made a movement with her arm, and then she went, ouch, and she couldn't, and then she was angry at herself for having forgotten that she had that arm that was in pain. So immediately I did the same exercise that I did with TH, and we went with the pointer. He found relief, and then he completely forgot about her arm again. And then we ended up the session. But I remember she had a plastic bag with some sodas in it, and she was going to pick up with the arm that was no longer had discomfort. She was going to pick up the bag with it, and I had to tell her, no, 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 no. Just because you don't feel your arm, it doesn't mean that it's healed, because we only lower the volume of your alarm system. So what I would like is for you to please use your other arm and carry your bag with that arm, and still continue with the same treatment that your physician, your caretakers, your care providers have asked you to do. So to go back to your question, what are some of the things that I have used is primarily for after surgery. It's so good because a lot of times the body's still recovering and it doesn't remember fully that it's healed. And we need to help the body realize, okay, I'm healing. I don't need to set the alarm on. This, in fact, the surgeons were saying that this was a success surgery. So there's no need for the alarm to continue on. So that's really good. Post surgical procedure, it's fantastic. The other one that I am know I've used it is with rheumatoid arthritis with individuals. With that, it's been fantastic as well. A lot of people ask me, well, does it work for all the immune disorders, um, like celiac and Hashimoto or lupus or multiple sclerosis? I always tell yes and no. Yes, in a sense that we want to be able to test it on it, but we also want to make sure that you continue with the treatment that you have from your physician. But at the same time, anything that has been associated as a emotional or even traumatic event that has been happening in your life or that has happened in your past, especially in your childhood, could be also triggering this immune system reaction. And therefore, let's use brain spotting for that first in order to clear the noise. And then we can go into the, the chronic pain and see if we can now treat it that way. And that's when you can see good results, when you take care of the emotional component or the trauma component first, and then you do it. And for that, I recommend, if you're going to do that, please go see a brain spotter first before you do it on yourself. Just what I'm going to show you today.
In closing, other than a sense of relief, what can folks expect with this treatment?
Primarily, what I've noticed is that people are able to go home and get on with their lives as much as they can. I tell people, still take care of yourself, of your body. Continue with the if you have your appointments with the chiropractor or the physical therapy or whatever your physician told you, or continue with that. If you have scheduled to do some sort of surgery, whatever, continue with that. Go check with your physician. Don't stop just because you don't feel it anymore. It's very important. On the other hand, I think that the more we become aware that we are able to influence our bodies, the more I think that we will be able to respect pain, but at the same time be able to respect our bodies and realize and respect our brain for the amazingness that we can do for us. And that my hope is that people will be able to go home and also take care of themselves, and maybe they might not need me anymore, but they can take care of themselves by themselves.
Wow. Yeah. That is just so incredible. The ability for someone to really become their own caretaker, their own secure base in their healing process. Exactly. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. Well, Erick, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your stories, your wisdom and insight into this. And thank you all for tuning in to hear about this fascinating development in the brain spotting community. Make sure to tune in next time to hear more about how this exercise can be helpful at home, especially during the holidays. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Emily.